A great UI isn't just a pretty face. You know it. It's a marketing tool, a creative engine, and sometimes even a portal where users build their dreams, make money, or escape into a magical universe. And that's wild, because this universe is built with just a few subtle tools. Light, color, typography, and structure. Simple on surface, powerful underneath. And in order to master those tools, we need to look at UI not as users, but as designers. And ask the real question: what makes the interface great and unforgettable? And for those who don't know me, I'm Natalia Guerra, founder of the first UI design agency for audio industry. And for this episode, my team and I handpicked plugins that stand out in style, composition, color, typography, and UX. And by the end of this video, let's see if you can spot a quality UI instantly, even without touching the plugin. Let's start with something familiar: never-ending design trend. And you've probably noticed that schemorphism isn't going away. Plugins are still dressing up like vintage hardware: knobs, brushed metal, bolts, all this stuff. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then 280p by Mixland, as if you walked into a high-end mastering suite. That's the feel you get from this plugin. How it's made, how this feeling is achieved. Let's take a look at lighting. It's studio soft. Shadows gently carve out shapes. You can almost feel the metal under your fingers, without the interface screaming for attention. Metal textures? Convincing, though maybe a little bit too many bolts. Glass elements. Semi-transparent, clean, no weird reflections or artifacts. Typography restrained, clear, and balanced. And layout breathes, follow the typical analog UI layout, but without the limitations of real-world devices. What's rare here is the 3D modeling. It adds real depth, but it doesn't fall into the trap of looking plasticky or toyish. And a color palette. It's warm, soft, warm studio feel. Here's another one, analog style interface. One that really leans into nostalgia. Probably a little bit hard to pronounce for me. P821, P8021, MDN by Pulsar and Modular. Another great analog UI style interface that really leans into that nostalgia. It really worth attention because you can take a look at those view meters, glossy buttons, and LED indicators, and some knobs, well, they are really nice. Probably a little bit short on backlighting, with great typography that's absolutely on point. They mixed digital readouts, well-printed labels, and these technical fonts, capturing the real-world rack unit vibe. The only element that cheapens the overall feel is, can you guess already? Yes, that's the stone background. Overall, not new in visual message and idea implementation, yet a well-crafted, deeply nostalgic style. Nostalgia still sells. After all this analog emulation and texture-heavy styling, Pixels enters the room with a totally different nostalgia feeling and a nostalgia energy. Alex makes you fall in love with retro screens, pixel displays, soft lighting. Everything here feels crisp and intentional. Margins are precise, transitions are subtle, even the micro interactions are tuned to perfection. Typography. It doesn't just support the layout, it defines it. This is what attention to detail looks like. Take a closer look, because it's what makes a UI feel polished, premium, and even a little bit magical. A gem for those who notice. But here's a catch. As in Snow White, pixels look sharp, but it'll probably get overshadowed by the next synth. And of course, this plugin is already named Plugin of the Year. Serum 2 by Xfer Records is a textbook case that has built its own aesthetic world. Surfaces are clean, soft lighting, micro textures create just enough depth without visual noise. The color palette is consistent with this product idea and product name, especially for those who get this acidic serum connotation. Not my favorite, though the idea has sharp implementation. And also, this idea has been created with light done right. Each block of the UI has its own light logic, and shadows are subtle but purposeful. It guides your eye without distraction. Typography follows a smart grid system, minimal fonts, perfect spacing, a great legibility, readability, even with this dancing font. So yeah, that's a really good user interface. Probably you have noticed that we already reviewed it in our video, so check it out. Despite the plugin complexity, the layout feels intuitive. Visual anchors and repeated patterns help users find their way fast. No manuals needed, although the manual is a masterpiece itself. And while we touched so much on the colors and composition, let's dive in another cluster of plugins. Flat, minimalistic, with colors as the core instrument. While some plugins managed to grab our designers' attention, others didn't. And let's learn from the best of the spring releases, starting with Sala by Force. A very different kind of visual experience. The color palette here does more than just good look. It functions. Take a look at each group of controls. It's separated by color without relying heavily on borders or lines, and that's a smart design. It reduces visual clutter while improving usability. Let's take a closer look. It's intentionally flat, with soft gradients, no unnecessary shadows or surface imitations. It's clean, screen native, and fully digital. Think minimalism, futurism, or even retrofuturism, where form beats material. The layout is unconventional, but it's not chaotic. The controls are logically grouped and feel like a part of a cohesive visual system. Even without labels or tutorials, you can guess how things work. That's right. That's good UX. I also want you to notice that Lori Keys has really good color palette and typefaces. Still, the next product is a top-notch experience in these terms, and it's delivered by this German studio agency for this Excite audio company, Bloom Drum Percussion. After all this tech and texture, Bloom just drives like a soft breeze into your room, and you're just like, oh yeah, it's really good. It's really soft experience. So, how it's done, how this maximum expressiveness done through minimal means. Let's check it out. Pastel color palette. Soft purples, beiges, blues, that creates this calm, warm atmosphere. Well, yeah, color as emotion, not ornament. Okay, we get it. Delicate typography acts as a silent guide, never shouting for attention. Neoclassical neomorphism at its finest, just as a style. Subtle shadows, barely lifted surfaces, just enough to make this depth to feel tactile. An isometrical central layout gives you order, controls like a central focal point, this orbit in the center. Well, that's really good. That's really subtle and, well, minimalism. Yet maximum function, gives you maximum power. So our next stop is quite contrasting to this previous sleek and minimal and light impression. This one is bold in textures and colors. And well, that's not bad. Let's see how it works. So this is in a pitch 2. It's, well, pretty recognizable in many ways and pretty visually honest. How it manages to speak this really own design language? Well, it has this playful yet grotesque and grungy textures and, well, strong and experimental vibe. The pink tone color palette feels surprising in a technical context, but it's exactly what creates this unique visual identity. There's a lot of decorative elements with low functional value, and with that in mind, plugin might benefit from an alternative theme dark, neutral, or minimal, especially if intended for long studio work. Fonts and the limited use of these pseudo materials work, well, surprisingly well with the overall style. Not too traditional, not too quirky. It all adds up to this honest 2D aesthetics, not fake, not too fake with depth and with lighting effects. Overall, it's confident artistic style, and that's important for a brand to stand out. While we were discussing all these plugins internally, I stumbled upon two short examples that I wanted also to show you. Ethno Fury by Simple Magic. Despite this childish look, the minimalistic UX helps and saves the day. But this childish look is not that simple as it may seem at first, because maybe you can stumble upon some Le Corbusier art or Dancing Keith Haring art, and that can give you a really nice reference for UI. And I wonder if those references were actually used for this UI. I wanted to mention that if you work really good on typography and balance your UX really well, it can help you save your plugin even if it has pretty uncharacterful style. Just take a look at Scale 3. It's really good with UX and typography, and it saves the day for this plugin. So yeah, take a look at them. While the final UI has this character. This plugin summons the dark, cinematic and gothic impression. The eye motif, the gravitational center that organizes all elements with symmetry. But that style comes with a cost. Some of the decorative elements don't serve as a clear function, and that can get in the way of clarity. The soft internal lighting adds depth without overexposing the UI. It's well executed and cinematic. Typography reads well against the dark background, although some sections lack contrast. Too many elements share same visual weight, which blurs focus in a few areas. A really good Photoshop 2010s feel style. Before I tell you something important about the rest of the releases, let me know if the info I shared with you gave you insights that you can implement to your own work. And if yes, I'd be glad to see that in likes and subscriptions. If not, let me know in the comments what you need. Why the rest of the plugins were left behind, despite being reviewed internally. See, they have this stack of problems, like inconsistency, style, light, or typography. Weak style choices that makes plugin hard to use. Outdated style, but outdated that doesn't support the product idea, or don't have this fresh look at the style. Legibility issues, yes. Proportions a little bit off or really off, and great underuse. Those developers are brave and hardworking people, and we are thankful for their hard work. Some made mistakes on the style that didn't work, others were too busy managing everything else or were short on budget to continue working on UI experiments, and there's a lot of manage, I admit. I barely touched on branding this time. Just imagine that there were two plugins named Pulse this spring. One of them, by the way, has pretty neat typography, but that's for another episode. So until the next time.